April 8th, 2001. That was so exciting when it actually came and actually happened, and it all came together. It was just really thrilling.
Getting the art for the opening day was the main triumph and the main excitement. We did it.
I remember hoping we were going to have a great crowd and hoping the weather was going to be good.
Sunny day.
The weather could not have been more perfect.
It was hot, but crowds of people.
We had thousands and thousands and thousands of people, colorful, bright smiles, kids.
We walked up, and the first thing that we did was stop because they had the chalk draw artist in the street drawing large paintings and so forth with chalk.
James and I was doing this whole community mural project where people would get these styrofoams and paint different things.
And just activity and color and fun.
A lot of fun and very touching, too. I mean, to have, of course, the mayor and Dr. Frist and the symphony and the Fisk singers.
I declare the Frist Center for the Visual Arts to be open today, tomorrow, and forever. Please join us inside.
Opening day of the Frist Center for the Visual Arts was a dream come true. It was a community celebration, and it was a significant milestone in Nashville's cultural arts history.
Felt like the community had come out to support this event.
It happened even better than we thought, you know, with the people. And it was something to see them and see people for the first time experiencing and claiming ownership that this was our center.
Coming in and seeing people and running into people that all they could do is talk about their memories of the post office, and they couldn't believe that they were back in this building.
Well, the opening day was a special day for me. I was born and raised here in Middle Tennessee. In fact, as a young high school student, I would actually come down and work in the post office to pick up a little extra change. And so this has been part of my heritage to have seen this wonderful Art Deco building saved from maybe being replaced, to preserve it and have it recommissioned into a magnificent visual arts center. It's just was a dream come true.
In 1993, the Frist Foundation underwrote a visioning process in Nashville. We had strong leaders, Bronson Ingram, Tommy Frist, the mayor, and we got a group together of about 25 key people in Nashville.
And there were, I don't know, 15 or 20 things that came out of it that Nashville needs. Does Nashville want? Does Nashville need? Well, one of them was, does Nashville need a museum? And Ken Roberts picked it up, and he put a committee together. And then each one of them, somebody that picked it up and said, I'll take that on, and figured out whether we need it or don't need it.
We interviewed citizens all over the community, several thousands, as to what did Nashville need to do to be the best that it could. And surprisingly, one of the things that came out of that was the need for an art or exhibition center, preferably downtown. There had been studies on the need for an art center going back to 1969, but it never really crossed my mind, or I think Tommy's mind, as an active project for us to undertake until we did this visioning process.
I first heard about the Frist Center for the Visual Arts while working in the mayor's office with former Mayor Phil Bredesen. I was his senior assistant for arts and community affairs, and Ken Roberts came to the mayor's office to talk about this idea of turning the Nashville former post office into a Frist Center.
The committee kind of hashed it around, and Ken did a great job of bringing in some experts and stuff like that, and we even went around and visited museums outside the state of Tennessee.
Well, it was Ken Roberts who asked me if I would consider serving on the founding board for the Frist Center for the Visual Arts. I knew right away from the people that were involved that this is something that's going to be successful.
James Thrillkill called me one day. He said, Michael, he said, Ken wants to take you to lunch. So we meet over University Club, and Ken and I sit down, and we're having lunch, and he begins to talk to me about this idea coming from Tommy, Frisk, about an arts center, not a museum, but an arts center that would be, number one, free to all persons up to 18, and about art education and being able to bring art that some of these people would probably never ever see in their lives. And I said, I'm on board.
I was actually on a committee with Ken Roberts, the Nashville's Agenda, look at art museums. And Ken and I were talking about where the art museum would go, and I said, well, did you know we were looking at the post office?
It came down to us then, at that point, that there was only one place that really mattered, and that was the post office, because this building, beautiful classical design in front, beautiful Art Deco inside, it was almost built for a museum. The structure, so much wide open spaces, almost like a big warehouse once you cleaned it out, and had so many attractive features, not only the Art Deco, but the beautiful floor and so forth. So we said, if we can get the post office, we will do this.
The history of this building where the Frisk Center for the Visual Arts was going to be located was something that was extremely personal to me when I found out that that was the facility that was going to house the Frisk Center. My mother was an individual who had applied to work for the Postal Service during the early 1960s, but the Postal Service had a policy of not hiring women during that time. My mother would take the exam to get hired, pass the exam, but would never get a call. And so there was an African-American postal union that actually went to her and asked if they could use her case to actually sue to get the policies changed about hiring women with the Postal Service. And my mother was actually a pioneer in getting the policies changed. So I grew up running through this building because I would come down on days when she was working.
You know, I think it was really a brilliant move on the part of our founding trustees and the planning done by the Frisk Foundation to select the downtown post office as the site for the Frisk Center. The purpose and the belief in making this space, choosing this space because of its accessibility to the public and people, knowing it's for everybody. It was a public institution.
People give me a lot of credit, but all I was the hammer or the block and guard or whatever you want to call it. The most critical people were, of course, Tommy Frisk. His support and enthusiasm was absolutely essential. We couldn't have done it without it. The other most critical factor, as I call the third leg of the three-legged stool, was Mayor Phil Bredesen. He said, hey, why don't we do this? How much will it take to get the post office? And I made a guess. He said, how much do you think it'll take to renovate it? And I said, 20 million more or less. He said, let's do this. If we get past the council, let the city put up $20 million, of which, whatever it takes to buy the post office, we'll buy the post office and the city will own it. Then we'll lease it to you for 100 years for $1 a year.
We had Marvin Runyon, who was Postmaster General of the United States, or had recently retired as Postmaster General. A Nashvilleian who'd come here to run Nissan, was the first CEO of Nissan, understood, loved this community, understood the needs, was very receptive to it, and he became an emissary for us as far as dealing with the post office at the federal level and the local level.
So I think it was really an alignment of the stars to really make this thing happen, because you had to almost have Marvin in the Postmaster General's position as he was, and being a Nashvilleian. You had to have Tommy Frisk, who really wanted to make this thing happen, and Kent Roberts, being the bulldog to really get in there and make it happen like he did.
Every time I enter it, I just get filled with pride to see us take a building that was in the tradition of government, certainly back when it was built to last, but it was ornamented in a way that you oftentimes don't see now.
First visit, it was love at first sight. I absolutely was mesmerized by this building. So when I walked in, it was like kismet.
One of the interesting things, we were working in the lobby and we realized there was these indentations in the marble along this edge here, this trim work of the marble against what is the glass walls going into the museum. We could not figure out what it was until we realized historically the mailboxes, the postal boxes used to be where this glass is. And so people would walk up for 70 or 80 years and they'd stand right here, they'd get their mail, and then they would pivot to turn around and, of course, leave. And, of course, what you have then is these indentations about a foot apart all along this wall here where people got their mail. And that's what caused those indentations in the marble that you can feel right here.
The brilliance of Steve Tuck and Tuck Hinton, the architectural firms, to preserve this wonderful building and show it off now, and make it just a part of the DNA, the heritage, and perpetuate that on as we show these other treasures in art. We have one right here that we preserve.
I am particularly interested in the art and history of the Depression era, and I walked into the building and felt that it had all the gravitas of an institution with a long history.
I think one of my favorite things about this lobby is the grill work. Now, one of the things really interesting about these post offices, after the Depression, after the Depression when they started in '29, the government decided, let's build post offices because that touches more people as quickly as possible as we can. And so what they did is they actually had artists design grills and eagles and all these different pieces, and the architects simply, they had a building that was sort of a base shell building, but the architects simply picked out the grill and the eagles and the marbles and things like that they wanted because the building was pretty much designed. And they did it almost like a prefabricated building. And that way they were able to put all kinds of artists together very quickly working, get a lot of people working.
When you visit the Frist, don't neglect to look at the art of the building before you actually come in and look at the other types of art.
See, right, these sort of little squiggles right there, that's sort of where we came up with the S in Frist, you know, so the front of the building. FRS has that sort of long, it sort of came from these grills. That was an idea that came from those grills, as well as you see the handrails on the glass. All that was sort of a little of a touch that was picked up from that grill and then repeated several places as sort of a newer detail. Part of the repurposing of the building, I think, also goes back to sustainability. The most sustainable thing you can do is repurpose an old building. Everybody talks about solar panels and gray water and this, that, and the other. Those don't make a dent in sustainability than use any existing building.
People would come in and just be amazed at the transformation of the space and what had been done to keep the history of the building, as well as to refresh it and give it a new life and a new purpose.
And so again, it's how do you repurpose these details in a way that it makes people understand and appreciate the larger design of the building. And maybe that's part of the soul of the building.
In the classical sense, a museum is a collecting institution, and we wanted to be an arts center, but not a collecting institution.
Well, the thing that's so exciting about a non-collecting institution is that you have unlimited resources, and you're not bound by any existing collection. It was a little scary thinking about, being here without a permanent collection, but then you realize, well, that's actually what drives people to come to museums. They come. Certainly they want to go see the old favorites in a permanent collection. You want to go back and go see the Leonardo da Vinci. You want to go see the Van Eyck. You want to go see all those, but you're really coming to see the special exhibition.
So I think by not being collecting, it really, a collecting museum, it really expanded our being able to present lots of different types of art.
So you can go after the best collections in the world to bring them in. And I had worked in an institution that had done that for over 50 years successfully.
I never thought as an educator that when I'm speaking to young people or teaching young people about art appreciation, and to be able to talk about works of art and then to say, okay, this piece of art that we're talking about is, this exhibition's down to Frist right now. You can go down for your art visit and gallery visit.
People come for the exhibitions. People come for the variety and for the difference. And if we change the way we look in our offerings once every several months, people are more likely to come back 4, 5, 6 times a year. They're likely to be excited about things, and we can introduce types of art that they will never have seen or heard of before.
Susan and Mark Scala and the rest of the Frisch Center team has done an excellent job of having a very diverse exhibitions. Some are very populous and fun. All of them, you learn something.
One of the things that was most important to me was the Frisch Center's mission about reaching out and being a populist institution and really being here for everyone. People that, of course, knew about art, but also those folks that had never been in a museum at all.
So the Martin Art Quest Gallery is an interactive hands-on space, and we've got about 30 different stations in there where visitors can come in and have a hands-on experience. And in some cases, you're going to make works of art. Other cases, you're going to have an interactive hands-on, maybe with building blocks. It's designed really for small family learning, intergenerational learning, and it's so marvelous to see it happen.
I now have children who love coming to the Frisch Center for the Visual Arts because they know that I'm an artist. They see me working in my studio. To be able to go upstairs and participate in art techniques and all of those kinds of things, to me, sets the tone for people to have access.
When my children come here, they certainly like to go to Art Quest. I think Art Quest is a pull to pull them in here, but then it's amazing how much even my 9-year-old, how much she can pull out things in the exhibition, something that I might even mentioned or talked about, which is a beautiful thing.
The spontaneous nature of art causes people to think innovative in ways that might lead to medical solutions that solve diseases or cures and other things.
And then the Frisch Center can teach me about that I don't know everything, or there's other points of view, or how someone else might see that. And it's a wonderful experience because not only do you learn about other cultures and worlds, but you learn so much about yourself.
Over the decade that I've been here, we've established and nurtured relationships with leading museums in the United States, from Philadelphia Museum of Art, Brooklyn Museum of Art, Detroit Institute of Art, and many others, but also internationally. Our collaboration with the Musée d'Orsay in Paris was the first. We will be presenting an exhibition from the Centre Pompidou in Paris later this year. We've also worked with the Tate in London and also the Victoria and Albert. And we've received invitations to speak around the world, Australia, and our curators are known throughout Europe as well as North American continent.
I think the Frisch Center has been good and will continue to be more than willing, both public and private schools, aware of the curriculum going on. We're very open to support that as much as possible, but to certainly work with school groups coming in, that we can help support the teachers and the curriculum going on in the schools. That's an important aspect of the education component.
Right now, Nashville is the it city, so the community is changing, and I think one of the things we're very aware of in the art world is that the demographics of our country are changing, and we're hoping that our commitment to diversity will reflect the changes in the community.
I will always have a special connection to the Frisch Center for the Visual Arts, not only because of my upbringing as an artist, but the fact that my mother encouraged me as an artist when I was young, bought me art materials when we really didn't have the money to afford it, and to really encourage me to continue my development as an artist. To see me be a part of this facility in a historic manner was something that will always be very special for her.
I would like to think that it's just too important not to have, and because it's not going anywhere, but I like to think it's, there's a community feel that it's theirs. It's everyone's. It's not any individuals, but this is a place that's welcoming for everyone. It's a place of
opportunity.
The Frisk has delivered on all the promises that it made to the community. It has been an open and inclusive organization.
I hope that people will realize the Frisk Center is about, it can be a remarkable thing if they allow it to be, to come in here regularly, to open up and have a really quality experience. In 10 years from now, I hope our visitors, the people coming in here, have more and more quality, great experience. They walk out feeling like they have feel good about themselves, or feel like they have a better understanding of themselves and the community around them and other communities all over the world. That would be my hope and my dream.